In this short video, I'm going to explain how and when you can use the imperfect tense in French. Whereas in the past, we have studied the past tense, also known as the perfect tense, which describes a single completed action in the past. For example, I went to school. The imperfect tense is slightly different. We use the imperfect tense in French to describe something that happened frequently or regularly in the past. It is also used for descriptions in the past, such as describing what the weather was like or giving your opinion of something you did. It can tell us what something used to be like, and it can describe something that went on for a long period of time. Normally, when we translate the French imperfect tense into English, we translate using was and ing. For example, I was playing tennis, or we were watching television. So we've said that the imperfect, l'imparfait in French, takes place in the past. But let's look at some examples. If you're trying to describe something that happened frequently or regularly in the past, you might say, quand j'avais 10 ans, je faisais de la natation. When I was 10, I went swimming twice a week. Here we use the imperfect in French and in English because this was something that happened on a regular basis in the past. You may also use the imperfect to describe things. For example, the house was enormous, la maison était énorme, or what the weather was like. Hier, il y avait du soleil. Yesterday, it was sunny. In the picture, I've underlined in blue two verbs which are in the imperfect tense in French. Quand Edouard était adolescent, il n'avait qu'un rêve. This translates as when Edward was young or an adolescent, he only had one dream. Here, the imperfect tense verbs are was and had. Here is another example. Je voulais la voir, mais elle n'était pas là. I wanted to see her, but she wasn't there. Here, the imperfect tense verbs are voulait, I wanted to, and était, she was not there. So now we know when we need to use the imperfect tense. The question remains as to how we form it. What you need to do is take the present tense nous version of the verb, for example, nous finissons, we finish. You then remove the ONS ending and add either AIS, AIS, AIT, IONS, IEZ, AIENT, depending on the subject. So, for example, je finissais means I was finishing. Tu finissais, you were finishing. Il finissait, he was finishing. Nous finissions, we were finishing. Vous finissiez, you plural were finishing. Ils finissaient, they were finishing. Here's another example. I begin with nous faisons, we do, which is in the present tense. Nous faisons. I then remove the ONS, leaving me with what we call the stem, fait. Then, depending on the subject, I add different endings. So, for example, if I want to talk about myself, I would say je faisais, I was doing. If I was talking about someone else, I would write tu faisais, you were doing. Notice these two endings are the same. Finally, il faisait, he was doing. Ends this time, though, with an AIT. Here is one more example. I take nous écoutons, we listen, which is in the present tense. I remove the ONS, leaving me with the stem, écoute. And then, depending on the subject, I add the endings again. For nous, you add IONS, which ends up as nous écoutions, and so on. Vous écoutiez, il écoutait. Write down these verbs and see if you can translate them accurately into English. Pause the video, then when you're ready to check your answers, press play. Okay, so je parlais could mean I was talking or I was speaking. Nous mangions, we were eating. Vous regardiez, you were watching. And elle jouait, she was playing or she used to play.